SheerLee here with Siriustalesmoon, and this is Soul Hour, Jupiter Day. And Sun is 26 degrees Sagittarius, Moon 6 degrees Sagittarius, Ascendant ruled by Saturn, Midheaven ruled by Mars. So this is an energy reading that actually came together with the previous one. And this was, I was shown a lady, and I was seeing her hand. She was using a black glove that was not using a black glove, and she could have done that in not necessarily physical. Either she really stole physically a black glove that's not hers, or she was projecting a certain image using the image of that black glove that basically was not hers. And she was passing an egg that looks like a jade egg, a crystal, either from a rose quartz or something like that. Looked like white or pink, on her hand, and even though the face of that woman we're not seeing, it was pretty obvious who that woman was, and has to do with an occultist. And has to do with the use of the egg shape. But here is something that keeps coming for several months. I'm going to try to phrase that. There are certain people that try to arrange a death because sexual sovereignty exposes things that they were not set to deal with. And they may even try to use Archangel Michael. But he will not. Archangel Michael is to protect from trafficking. Okay, it's like Ares, he kills the rapists. That's. Now, I'm not particularly religious, and ritual abuse was done under the guise of religion. The Mormon church trafficked people, Opus Dei trafficked people, children, women, and so on. But here it is quite apparent that attempt to how should I say that? Something was done that sexual sovereignty, they tried to kill the people that talk about sexual sovereignty or that want sexual sovereignty. And what I was seeing is from the man occultist is saying sexual sovereign death, which means that he was trying to assassinate someone who spoke against rape and trafficking. And the lady was trying to work something with an egg in a gloved hand. Now, I talk about reclaiming the egregore because the egg shape is birthing. And this is why I did put a picture of a physical egg, because all of those things stem from the cloning project. And it's unclear if there was a couple that was supposed to have an offering of their firstborn, or that they got their firstborn using creative energy that is not only of theirs, and even though it's supposedly only energy and spiritual, it had implications. Okay, I'm not a big occultist. I can make a moon talisman here and there, but that's pretty much where it ends. I'm not a big occultist, so I'm trying to just see what I read in the energy. And even when I would make a talisman, I was like, oh, that's a good election. The moon is in okay position. That's in okay position. Call on the desired qualities of the planets, and pretty much like I would make an essential oil blend. Okay, it's nothing ceremonial. It's nothing of those, you know, um, and that is um, also why I'm saying that a lot of these things are unclear to me, because I can identify something going on in the energy, um, and there was something to do with stealing creative energy that caused, they wanted to incept or to cause a cloning effect. It's kind of like they wanted to take a creative energy from someone and make it look like their ideas are not original. They're the copycat, or they weren't aware that this is a side effect of that the person will try to take the energy back, and then what they will create will be theirs, but because those that try to take that idea and use it or make it look like it's their original without actually giving credit, without actually sharing dividends. Okay, and I'm talking about commercial stuff here, or stuff that have commercial potential. Let's say, for example, I'm an astrologer and I'm an aromatherapist. Many colleagues astrologers told me, hey, do the combination. Before I even knew that that's a thing, and by the time I got to do that, it was pretty much channeled. And I wasn't intending to go commercial or anything with around that. Um, but this is different, let's say, to somebody having ideas of where something could go or where something could expand. And I want to be extremely cautious, because more than one person can have the same idea. However, there is something particular occultistically done on creative energy here. Now, I don't know by what party, by what person, but whoever did that was creating something that got people entangled, and without sexual sovereignty and zero rape society, zero trafficking society, whether in occult, whether in spirit, in matter, in real estate, in resources, the spirit and matter affect things. There were attempts to reduce things to there is the human and then there is the divine. No, they're all entangled. Not in the sense that, how should I say that? People cannot be enslaved because people are part of the divine. Nature cannot be enslaved because nature is a part of the divine. That's something that really comes up as we try to untangle. Wow, this Sagittarius stellium speaks loud. I think when Lilith ingresses to 0 degrees Sag, we'll have even more insights. But the only way to disentangle what was created alchemically by this occultist couple and their societal affiliates, and there can even be an issue of a cash cow. Okay, that somebody got paid to target individuals, kind of like an MK Often thingy. Nothing can be disentangled without sexual sovereignty, and there was an attempt to even assassinate those who talk about sexual sovereignty. or to make them believe that only in death there is sexual sovereignty or sexual sovereign death, so that they would believe that they cannot be alive and sexually sovereign, have housing and be sexually sovereign, have income and be sexually sovereign, have food and nourish that and be sexually sovereign. Okay, something very twisted. Or have a sexually sovereign um, practice of whether it's spiritual, sexual sovereign, and the occult is a very big issue that comes up. Okay, even occult practice has to be sexually sovereign. And this lady with that was trying to appear as the gloved hand. It was very apparent who's the lady underneath the gloved hand, even though we didn't see her face. And she was working with a jade egg, and she was trying to do something regarding a person that spoke about a jade egg. I know I spoke about a jade egg. There was something that bothers her about spiritual sovereignty and sexual sovereignty. Maybe she could be profiting off of trafficking, or entangled in kind of an Epstein ring or something like that. Um, and and this is where it looks like they were trying to how should I say that? Set a boundary, and you will see why did you need to set that boundary in the first place. They were trying to erect a boundary while they were violating boundaries. Now, particularly around fertility and birthing, whether of ideas or of children. Now, uh, uh, because it can even be, and I'm going to be, um, it can be that they may come from certain lineages that are entangled in secret societies, and they may have tried to go to receive a rank to protect their family or something. I don't know. But what it seems to me is that they try to keep running away from the fact that sexual sovereignty is a non-negotiable in spirit and in matter under any circumstances. And they were doing that by still trying to wield power over what is natural, which is sexual sovereignty, and no power that they called was standing in their favor as long as they dishonor sexual sovereignty in some way. And they're trying to put it on another person that dealt with these shadows. Okay, that dealt with. They're trying to summon the shadows of sexual boundary violation on a person that tended to the underlying causes, and this is why this person, namely me and or others, are now tending to them, not in the sense that they're doing, like, how should I say it? It's just like these people keep showing up in the readings because they have to disentangle from anything that's not sexually sovereign, and if they stand in power, that power cannot violate sexual sovereignty, creative energy, plagiarize ideas, and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that they, like, okay, they're just, It can even be around AI. They may have been involved with an AI type of thing. Um, so if there is like an astrology event that does not give dividends to the people that they use to feed their algorithm. For example, if I take astro.com, there were a set of astrologers that are behind the interpretations. Astroseek.com, Peter is Astroseek. Okay, is okay, and if I'm wrong, then that would mean that these people are liable to the plagiarism related stuff. There's not for nothing that whenever I say, "Oh, this is I got something I got from Cressy," or "This is something I got from Ksenia Moore," or "This is my teacher this," or "This is my teacher that," because this is something where there's somebody else's idea or even teaching I learned through someone, then I give them credit. And these people are not doing that. And not only that, escaping trafficking in as much as they're affiliated with it. And the more they try to erect this boundary, whether it's over their business or I don't know, the more this issue comes up. It's like more and more facets of sexual sovereignty line up to be addressed and to be honored and because the power is shifting and sexual sovereignty is what make power shift. And they try to now understand because sexual sovereignty is life energy, so each person has is their own life energy and that's what makes power shifts, and so they try to take power over the life energy of people by sexual boundary violation and or incubus succubus, um, because that's how they think to bend the timeline or to yield power over the timeline. They try to disconnect people from the divine and then pose the saints as an artificial emblem rather than as genuine divine connection which necessitates sexual sovereignty. This is why it's not even about Christ consciousness. It's something beyond religion as we know it. And those people understand that they won't be their boundaries will not be honored if they're not honoring sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter under any circumstances. They won't be able to blame shift and so on and so forth. Now the egg is also to do with birthing. There are creation stories to do with an egg and dragons, and now that Rao is in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer, those creation stories come about, but they can't wield the power of creation without sexual sovereignty. Now, and trying to say sexual sovereign death will not assist them. They can even assassinate themselves if they do such things, to be very honest. Okay, attended to political assassination prevention. My expertise was to tend to the occult practices that are used against the politicians, and this is how I got to the expendable children and extortion cults. okay? Because I cannot help politician. Let's say if politician has midheaven beta per se or something like that, then I can only try to ask a beta per se to work in his favor if he works in favor of sexual sovereignty. Okay? This is a true story. I actually tended to such case. Okay? So for me, occultistically, I was seeing that the beta per se part is being pointed, but I spoke up and I said, well, I will not call on beta per se for that person if he's not honoring sexual sovereignty, but I will address the fact that he needs to go towards sexual sovereignty and honoring sexual sovereignty in order to alleviate assassination attempts. Again, I'm not saying it's easy for people that were even what the people call clones of the dead, which is, by the way, how I got to know that information. It's basically, I said, what do people want from this person? What do people want? And then I saw testimonies, and then I learned about the cloning project. So that is, that's the wisdom of Beta Per Se, I guess. Uranus was crossing Beta Per Se at that time. That's my lot of family. So what I'm saying is that even when we talk about a cult, it has to honor sexual sovereignty. Even when people do, let's say, chaos occultism or eclectic practices, amazing. Still, in all of those practices, they have to honor sexual sovereignty. Okay? You can call on Archangel Michael if you honor sexual sovereignty and you say, Archangel Michael, abolish rape, fantastic. Beta per se, same. But if you are participating in trafficking, or, if you're really authentic to people that are entangled in crime and don't want to traffic or don't want to be there, maybe try to ask Beta Per Se to show you how you can exit being either trafficker or trafficked. Okay? Um, if I think about Alandra that was in the Montauk project, he was groomed to be an Epstein. Okay? There was a survivor of Epstein that was a trafficker as a young girl, because she would have to bring young girls. Yes, but what cannot be is to try to wield occult power or even Christ consciousness or any power to assassinate people who call for sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter. And what particularly I noticed um, is that the gloved hand, the glove was not, the glove was of the person that talks about sexual sovereignty and not just talks. And even though I didn't see her face, it was clear as the heavens who she is. Okay, who that occultist woman is. Um, and that was particularly something that was shown to me. Is sun is on the galactic center, so there's a visibility. Okay, it's a visibility. I talked about the visibility crisis, and the crisis here that something could leak, that is the visibility, and it was pretty much obvious who's the person underneath gloved hand. Okay, people can't disguise their actions when they violate the sexual sovereignty. I said that. So how many months am I saying what's done underneath gloved hands, okay, gets exposed, or underneath gloved hand, and so on and so forth. Um, but for this couple, if they do tend to honor sexual sovereignty, okay. And there was another lady occultist, and she's different, not from this couple. And she was still trying to play power play. She was trying to make someone she was coming with an offering of food that would cause diabetes. And she may have been or not involved in attempting to cause anomalies to the sugar level of a healthy person. Now, for all of these type of occultists that they were doing such things, they have to remember sexual sovereignty, sexual sovereignty, sexual sovereignty. Okay? Zero rape society. Only when they clear all rapey timelines can they be free. Not about bending the timeline or wielding power over or disconnecting, okay? Whichever type of occult practice is that. Because those attempts only bring more to the core the actual topic. To try to threaten someone's life because they say no to rape and trafficking and call it sexual sovereign death, or to try to make somebody fall asleep and do rituals around their luminaries, none of that works because it's going to create an exponential wave of particles that collide with a particle at home of those who try to do that to people. Is connected to what I saw that yesterday I saw like people trying to oppress people, and then the boom is within the oppressors and not within the oppressed. It's kind of like they bend over and then their spine snaps when they try to oppress people. Again, this is the last time to understand these things occultistically before Lilith ingresses into Sagittarius. And here is another eureka about the passage between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Okay, so because so many things were crossing that threshold from Scorpio to Sagittarius, I got a lot of insight on that passage. And this is where in Scorpio we understand the occultist, the deep, the psychological. It's time to transmute, to heal, and to go to sexual sovereignty. In Sagittarius, it's affecting one's freedom. Okay? If somebody raped in Scorpio, in Sagittarius, he will not be free. So really, really bewaring the ingress of Black Moon Lilith to Sag. Venus will enter the 22-degree today noon where I am, together with Jupiter, and we're entering 9 days again, moon cycle completion in a year 9 for the world of Jupiter Chiron that open with Venus on a 22 and close with Mercury on a 22 in Sag. Okay, and this is a reminder that without sexual sovereignty, nothing can be free. And no power can replace freedom. Okay, the freedom is important to our existence, well-being, lung health, lung health, lung health, lung health, lung health. Is a reason why when people are after trauma, okay, they sometimes have difficulty with breathing, or why panic attacks affect the breathing. I'm going to say it cautiously, because I never know who around could be post-traumatic. Sexual sovereignty is imperative for lung health. And regarding the egg shape is birthing, trying to wield the power of birthing by sexual violence or rituals that are done to prevent one from being sexually sovereign, or that were done in childhood on someone, and trying to bring that or to, okay, the only thing that can work is to clear those timelines, but that doesn't work with the message of sexual sovereign death, which is attempt to assassinate someone who says no to these occultist practices that are harvesting life energy through rape, incubus, and succubus. To try to acquire material wealth, which is basically the life energy of the people, and then supposedly pretend to be benevolent with charity that is also imbued with disease. And the attempt to protect oneself. Now, here is something that they need to understand. Um, Geographically, okay, let's say I buy a talisman from Oregon. I will receive many things from Oregon. Suddenly, many things, whether it's the news or what is happening or the housing prices or the dogs that they kill to get the land, or the ice that's in Portland, or something completely unrelated, will be Oregon. Okay, I know that's where Salem was, um, but it's also something that the other side of the ocean would be China, China, China and Russia. Um, okay, because we're not so flat. um, in my opinion. And so it was also particularly shown to me that I wasn't seeing the face. It was very clear that the glove is not the glove of the person, and it was very clear who was the person, even though I wasn't seeing the face. So that was it was clear as the sky what they were trying to do, and that they were visible. And they were not visible only to me. And the people that they were visible to also endured things to do with cult-like soul trading. Okay. Um, if this is the occult that's related to Epstein-like affairs, um, now would be the time um, to shift into sexual sovereignty supportive occult practices exclusively. There's no right hand path and left hand path cannot violate sexual sovereignty. One cannot hide war crimes, crimes against humanity, left hand path. Okay? One cannot claim to liberation when they rape, okay? Not attack the rapists, but rape. Whether they're called Frantz Fanon, and by the way, I did an essay on Frantz Fanon in university. Look at the power of dissociation. I actually didn't, I thought I was reading it wrong, or I didn't get it when he justified rape. That's kind of like a Bassa van der Kolk. Um, there is no liberation if people rape. Like the colonization came because of rape. Okay, 12th house, 12th house, 12th house, 12th house. I also want to emphasize that the people that are born to cults, okay, they're not as children when they do the rite of whether to make sure that is free will and so on. The fact that there are children that manage to choose not to doesn't tell me anything about free will. When the child is raped, tortured, has to rape, and at age 9, 10, being supposedly tested for free will, like, if there was the word, if this, if gaslighting is a word, and MK Ultra is a word, then this is ultra gaslighting. In fact, it is even supportive of the pedophilia justification to say that a 9, 10, 11, 12 years old child willingly consents and really wants, when they've been raped all their life, not even introduced to their own authentic sense of self since conception. Now, I know that the people that were kidnapped from their families may have had a slight more bit access to desire a different reality than the people that were born into rape and torture upon conception, and the cloning, as you know. But even with that, okay, so okay, because um, and the reason I emphasize that is because if we do not understand that type of intense mind control, and if we do not understand that there was never choice to begin with, then people won't see that there was never a contract there to begin with. So if they summon some entities, and those entities, I don't know, ask things from them or try to do whatever, they're not indebted to these entities. Okay? I'm talking about the people that were born in these cults or were there as children or got there by being violated as children. And mind you, even the cultures where a 12 years old child would already be a spouse is already conditions that okay, that where the word choice there is not, and to understand this conundrum is imperative, because it means that in no contract with those energy harvesting rapey beings, whatnot, people, societies, is valid from the get-go. No NDA with them is valid from the get-go. I saw things about currency. They talk about frequency and people having to sign an NDA to get access to currency. That's invalid. Okay? There is no NDA that can be replacement or override human rights and life energy. Okay, none of those things is valid because they were all done by torture. When you sign contract, it cannot be by torture. It cannot be where saying no would deprive you of housing, food, well-being, life, sexual sovereignty, sexual sovereignty, sexual sovereignty, sexual sovereignty. And it means that nothing signed under those conditions is a valid contract in ether or in matter. Okay, I know that there were empires founded upon that, but hey, there were empires founded upon raping children and harvesting their energy. Whether it was the Mayans or the Aztecs, over, they all got extinct following those very rites. That's the part they forget to tell when they talk about the Mayans and the Aztecs and how advanced they were. Until they did those rites and it crossed the threshold, um, my prediction upon the ingress of Black Moon Lilith to Sag is that up until this point where we are now, where we still have Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, we can transform, transmute, abolish anything occult practice or anything that dishonors sexual sovereignty, the non-erotic self as well. Okay, both the erotic self and the non-erotic self. Okay, and I mean not only pedophilia, but also, let's say, an adult person that doesn't feel like being sexual right now. Okay, up until now, we can get to the core underlying implications, meanings, and ways, and those things that, and how those violations were undermining humanity as of the ingress of Lilith to Sagittarius. Everything that's not honoring sexual sovereignty is going to begin to affect the freedom of those who violate sexual sovereignty. Okay? Think about it. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you sit on a cup of coffee, or you get hot water, and you say, "Well, shouldn't you be paying for this water?" Well, shouldn't they be offering a business model that's supportive of sexual sovereignty, from the mining of the minerals to the product, to the chain of supply, to the people and the clients having housing, food, okay, where they don't have to do anything that they're not in cohesion with, let alone erotically. Yeah, never mind that I order their food. It's not, but I was that example as, okay, as the type of conversations that are around irrigation and, okay, the mineral waters are filled with fluoride and toxins, and the polluted water are polluted because of the rituals that were creating the decision and policy makers that would pollute the water and see supposedly profit. It's not even profit, but they don't get to really enjoy it, because they're not free. Okay, they're only free to rape children under drugs, and then discover that they were filmed and extorted to do certain policies. And the use of the egg shape, which is birthing, can only be with honoring sexual sovereignty and life energy sovereignty. Okay, those occult rituals. I'm getting a call to, I need to watch it myself again, but to refer you to the videos with um, the niece of Epstein, where she talks about the occult practices that they were doing there. Okay, usually I talk about Anneke Lucas. Here I'm getting also another reference, which is the niece of Epstein. I think Sean Atwood, um, who also interviewed Anneke Lucas, um, interviewed her, and she's the niece of the Epsteins, and I don't know if she tells how she got out of that. Before these energies that were only only protecting from rape to try to cause assassination and something to do with luminary weird shit, and talking about sexual sovereign death and using the gloved hand, which was a stolen glove, and the egg shape, which was um, okay, which was okay. The use of jade egg is to try to cleanse sexual trauma. Um, that's the use of jade egg. It's to purify the energy from sexual trauma. So, is it only now saved? Is it only now saved? That's... Yes, this one. But I think, did I have another video? Let's see. Um, no, that's the one. Okay, so again, I use the egg shape here in its origin. Okay, which is divine conception, which is sexually sovereign, honoring of willing consent, not rapey, not plagiarizing womb energy or creative energy from women under any excuse, circumstances, and so on. The jade egg is used to cleanse, okay, sexual trauma energies, and the egg shape is birthing or rebirth. Um, it wasn't look like they were trying to do a death and rebirth because there were curses on the luminaries before in between. So either they were doing something that was not completely shielded, okay, um, or they were doing something that was not benevolent. Um, Now again, if they were doing something that was benevolent, then it was not completely shielded, was something to do with the luminaries. But anyway, it's important to, if they were trying to create sexual sovereignty and just use the death and rebirth, um, then that, first of all, that didn't come across because the sexual sovereign death wasn't sounding, the intonation and intention wasn't sounding clear. Okay, it was sounding something not benevolent. That's how it came across. And the gloved hand was not the same glove. Okay, it's like they were trying to make it look like, they weren't even trying to make it look like somebody. Okay, there's just something there. Like I said, as long as Lilith is in Scorpio, there's time to transmute into honoring sexual sovereignty in spirit, in matter, occult, which means honoring life energy, which means no plagiarizing of womb energy. And this is what would tend to the issue of ideas. Okay, if the harvest life energy from people, then they could have their ideas. If let's just put it that way, if they harvest life from people, they plagiarize the ideas of the people that it's their own life energy, and then they can't claim plagiarism to their business ideas or patents if they plagiarize those ideas with ritual. Okay, that would mean that that would not be their origin ideas. So there's something happening there. Um, and again, I don't know what were the intentions, what was, um, but the very fact that there was a ritual done, um, okay, that ritual should, the only type of ritual in which would be to shield people from violation of sexual sovereignty. Again, that's pretty much the only type of ethical ritual that could be done in that context. Um, they could have even projected an idea into a mother that could talk about the gloved hand and a secret and something to do with the skin or a skin problem around the housing, or she spoke about it. They're at a certain house where there were rituals done without the tenants' uh, consent or being informed. And there was okay, so yes, those things, as long as Lilith is in Scorpio, uh, this time to transmute, to go towards the road of sexual sovereignty. Okay? When upon the ingress, it will begin to affect the freedom. Okay, if people violate sexual sovereignty, they cannot be free. And it's not because they're going to be put in jail or this or that. No, it's that they basically, it's like physics. If I don't know, if there is, let's say, a rope, okay, connected to a door, and I pull the rope, the door opens. Okay, the door is approaching towards me. I cannot pull the rope towards me, okay, and wonder that the door is approaching me. Okay, I'm going to explain it again. If there is a rope connected to a door and I pull the rope, I can't say, "What's this door doing in my life?" I go backwards, the door is moving forward. You're pulling the rope that's connected to the door. Let go of the rope. The rope is the energy that is pulling on the life energy, trying to take from the life energy of a person. They can't say, "Why am I haunted by this person?" Because the person is just going where their life energy is. You try to pull on their life energy, where the person is going towards their life energy. They're going back to themselves, back to themselves. You try to make the person in trauma to dissociate from themselves, then you have fragments of this person going, and then you have a community of a one person going after the person that pulled the rope. That's what it means to do dark occult, to energy harvest.